Hi guys, welcome to my channel. I'm PassioKnit Kelsie. Today we're going to be doing a tutorial for my Valerie top. I do have this available as a written pattern on my website as well as Etsy and Ravelry, so all those links are going to be in the description below. Today in the tutorial video, I'm going to be making a size medium. So there will be extra typed instructions on how to make the other sizes in the description as well. So to begin the tutorial today, you're going to need some stuff. You're going to need a yarn needle. You're going to need a 4mm crochet hook. This is a Clover or More hook. These are my favorites. You're going to need some scissors of some kind, and then you're going to need some worsted weight yarn. I am using Lily Sugar and Cream, of course, my favorite. This color is called Berry Crush. And I'm probably only going to need one of these supersized skeins. This is a 4-ounce skein. You may need more if you're making a larger size, but this should be good for anything medium and under. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a slip knot, and we're going to start with a chain. So for the size medium, I'm going to be chaining 81. So I'll just go ahead and do that. Alright, so here's my chain of 81, and I will say in the pattern that I wrote, I did a chain 2 as a step up for a double crochet, but in this pattern I'm just gonna do it a little bit differently because I figured out that I like stacked double crochet better, or stacked single crochet, instead of doing a chain 2. I'm just gonna be doing it slightly different than the written pattern, but the top is the same. So after I did 81 chains, I am going to chain one more to start my next row. And the first thing I'm going to do is a stacked single crochet. So I'm going to go through the first stitch. I'm going to do a single crochet. And then after you've done your single crochet, you just go through this front loop right here. And then you do another single crochet. And then that makes a double crochet, basically. And then I'm just going to continue on, and I'm going to be doing double crochets in every stitch all the way until I get to the end. Whenever I'm doing this, I kind of just count and make sure that I did have 81 stitches, because if you're off, then it's going to mess up the pattern later. So okay, so here we are finished with the first row, just really basic double crochets all the way across. I'm going to start my second row, which is also just going to be double crochets. So I'll just turn my row. In the first stitch, I'm going to do a stacked single crochet. So go through, do a single crochet, go through the front of my single crochet, and do another single crochet, and that makes my edge double crochet. And then I will just continue on with just regular double crochets all the way across the row. It would be helpful if you wanted to mark the center stitch whenever you're doing this row, because we're going to need that stitch in the third row, but you don't have to if you don't want to. Okay, here I am after my second row, and I have my center stitch marked. So I started with 81 stitches, so I have 40 on this side, 40 on this side, and then 1 in the center that is marked. So on row 3, it's still going to be double crochets, but we're just going to do some different things. I'm going to go ahead and turn my row, and we're going to start decreasing at the sides to bring it up and in towards our neck. And then we're also going to be creating our cutout design on the center. So to begin, I am going to decrease at the beginning, which basically just means putting these 2 stitches into 1 stitch. Honestly, really simple. I'm gonna skip the first one and I'm just gonna do a stacked single crochet into my second stitch here. So skipping the first one, going into the second one, and just doing a regular stacked single crochet, and that is my decrease. So I'm gonna continue with double crochets all the way across until I get to my center marked stitch. Okay, so I've done every stitch until one before my marked stitch. And when I'm here, I'm going to do a chain 1. I'm going to skip the stitch that is marked, and then I'm going to continue with my double crochets on the other side. So I stopped one before, I did a chain 1, I skipped the marked stitch, and I continued my double crochets on the other side. So I'm just gonna keep doing double crochets all the way until I get to the end. Once I get to the last 2 stitches, I'm gonna stop because we need to do a decrease to match what we started the row with. Okay, so I went all the way across and I have 2 stitches left. So in my last 2, I'm gonna double crochet 2 together. I'm gonna yarn over, go through the first stitch and pull it up. I'm gonna go through the second stitch and pull it up. And then I'm gonna yarn over and go through 3, yarn over, go through 2. And that is how I do a double crochet 2 together. So from here, I'm gonna turn my work. I'm also gonna take out this stitch marker because I don't need it anymore. And then I'm gonna start my next row. So we're gonna continue doing the decreases. Every time you start a row, we're going to do the stacked single crochet decrease. So I'm just gonna skip the first stitch here, go into the second stitch and do that stacked single crochet, just like that. Now I'm going to double crochet across until I get to my chain 1 space. I'm gonna stop 1 stitch before this end one. So here's the chain, here's this stitch. I'm gonna be stopping right here. Alright, so there is my last double crochet on this side, stopping 1 stitch before our space. Now I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to do a double crochet and I'm going to do it into our first chain 1 space here. So I'm just going to yarn over. I'm going to put my hook through this big hole. I'm going to do a double crochet. And then I'm going to chain 1 again. I'm gonna make another space. So I'm gonna skip this stitch right here. And I'm gonna go into the next one with a double crochet. So see how our first row has 1 hole, our second row has 2 holes, and then it's just gonna grow from there. So the next one will have 3, the next one will have 4, 5, 6, so on and so forth. From here, I'm just gonna continue with my double crochets, just like normal. And when I get to the last 2 stitches, I'm going to do a double crochet 2 together. All right, so here I am at the end. I have 2 stitches left, so I'm gonna do my double crochet 2 together. Just like that. And you can see how it's starting to create a slope with the decreases. Every row from here is going to be pretty much the same. We're going to start with a decrease, double crochet all the way across, stopping 1 stitch before our spaces. We're going to create spaces by doing double crochets in the spaces from the below row. And then we're just going to continue with double crochets all the way across and do another decrease at the end. So I'm going to show you the 3rd row of the spaces pattern or the mesh pattern, and then from there you should kind of understand and like continue on your own. But I'm starting my 3rd row in the mesh pattern, so I'm going to do a decrease. I'm going to skip the 1st stitch and do that stacked single crochet in my 2nd stitch. Gonna double crochet all the way across these stitches until I get to 1 stitch before this one, so right here. Okay, here we are. I've stopped 1 stitch before the beginning of our mesh pattern. I'm gonna chain 1. I'm gonna go into my next space with the double crochet. Chain 1. Go into my next space with the double crochet. We're at the end of our pattern, so I'm gonna create 1 more space, chain 1. Skip this one and go into the next spot. And that completes our pattern. So I'm going to continue all the way across with double crochets until I get to my last 2 stitches, and I'm going to do double crochet 2 together. So basically, you know, this is just going to repeat. It's going to get bigger and bigger. The sides are going to get smaller and smaller until it all like meets together with a triangle. So I'm just going to continue this. I will kind of like do check-ins every couple of rows just to make sure you know what it's supposed to be looking like. And once we get towards the top, we're going to run out of solid stitches and we're going to do a couple stitches of just the mesh row. So I'll explain that once we get there. But yeah, so just continue this pattern for as many rows until we get pretty sparse on the solid double crochets, and we'll continue. Alright guys, so I'm just checking in. Here is what you should look like after some progress. So my sides are slowly sloping in. My V outline in the middle is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it looks the exact same on the other side. So the number of stitches on both sides of your V should remain the same as each other throughout your rows. And yeah, basically this is just gonna continue up like I said. So I'm gonna keep doing some more rows and then I will meet you back once we get towards the neckline. All right, so here is where we should stop and meet back up. I have 3 double crochets on both sides of my mesh. So I have 2 regular and then one decrease. 2 regular, 1 decrease. And at this point we're going to continue just a couple rows, I think probably like 4 or 5 in just the mesh. So I'm going to turn my top and I have my 3 stitches here. I'm going to do the same thing as I usually would. So I'm going to do a decrease. So I'm going to do a stacked single crochet in that 2nd stitch from my end. But now we are 1 stitch before our mesh, so we're just gonna go ahead and start with our mesh pattern. So I have my first double crochet here, I'm gonna chain 1, and then we're gonna start our mesh pattern. So I'm going into that first space, chain 1, next space, chain 1, go into the next space, and that's, you know, this just goes all the way across until we get to the other side. All right, I did my last space. I'm gonna chain 1 and I'm gonna skip this one and double crochet my last 2 together. Okay, so this is what that row should look like. It should just be mesh all the way across pretty much. So moving on, for the rest of our mesh rows, they're gonna be just like this. I'm going to start this row with a decrease, and I'm gonna do the same thing that I was doing. I'm gonna do a stacked single crochet. I'm gonna skip my first stitch, which is this one, and I'm gonna go directly into my next spot, which is gonna be this space. So I'm gonna go through the space, do a single crochet, do another single crochet on top of that to make my stacked single crochet, and then I'm gonna chain 1, and I'm gonna continue with the mesh stitch until I get to the other side, and I'll show you what to do over there. Okay, so I have 1 chain space left. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna decrease just like we have been at the end of our rows, which is gonna be double crochet 2 together. So my last 2 stitches are this one and then this chain space. So I already did a chain 1. I'm gonna yarn over, go through the chain space, pull through, go through my last stitch in the row, which is this one, pull through and double crochet those 2 together. So that is what it should look like. So to do the next row, it's gonna be the same thing, basically. Go into my first space with my stacked single crochet as my first decrease. Continue the mesh stitch all the way across until this space, and then in my last 2 stitches, which is this space and this last double crochet, do a double crochet 2 together. So you can continue these rows as much as you want basically, but I will tell you how many rows that I do for each size in my pattern, so you won't be confused or anything like that. So on my last 2 stitches, I'm going to do a double crochet 2 together in the space and the last double crochet of that row. So this is what it looks like for the last few rows. So for my size medium, I need to do a total of 24 rows. I just counted them and I have 24 now. So this is where I will stop doing my rows of that mesh stitch. We're not going to be cutting off our yarn though, so don't do that. From here, we're going to be doing a single crochet border all the way around until we get back, and then I'm also going to be doing the straps at the same time. So let's go ahead and do that. So I have my top. I want to start a border of single crochets all the way around the edges. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to put my first single crochet right here into that top stitch. I'm just gonna kind of like work my way down into each available space. There's no really right or wrong way to do this, but just kind of like do it, and then if you think it looks bad, pull it out and try again. If it looks fine, you can just leave it. So I'm gonna work single crochets all the way down the edge and around. I'll stop when I get to this corner. Okay, so I just did those single crochets all the way down this side. This is what it looks like. And at my corner, in the bottom, I'm gonna do 3 single crochets in that corner stitch. So that's 1, that's 2, and that is number 3. So that turns my corner. And now I can easily crochet all the way across the bottom here. So once I get all the way across the bottom, I'm going to do 3 single crochets in this corner, just like I did on the other side. I'm going to work my way all the way back up until I reach my other corner. We're not going to cut off our yarn, so I'm just going to do that and I'll meet you back at this top corner. Alright, so here we are, done with the outline. Started here, worked all the way down, around the corner, across the bottom, around the other corner, and back up the other side. At this point, we are going to be doing our straps. So for me and most of the orders that I make, I usually end up doing about 200 chains for the straps. So that's just what we're gonna do. So I'm going to go ahead and just start chaining right off of the corner where I ended my single crochets. And I'm gonna chain 200 and then we will turn around. So alright, so that is 200 chains there. And now I'm gonna work my way back down the chain all the way until I get back here so that I can work across the top of the neckline. I personally am going to be doing slip stitches. I like my chains that way. If you want your chains to be thicker, you can do a single crochet instead, or maybe even a half double crochet. But like I said, I'm just gonna be doing slip stitches. So I'm gonna start at the second loop. I'm gonna go through and just do a slip stitch. I'm gonna do that in every chain all the way down until we reach back to our top. So this is what it looks like with the slip stitches on it. Okay, so here I am back at the beginning where I started my chain. I've gone all the way to the last chain, and for me, I also like to slip stitch into this last single crochet that I did, this stitch right here. I just go through the top of it and then also the front of the stitch like that. I just do another slip stitch. Usually that helps with not leaving a hole there. So I'm going to continue and do a single crochet across the top of my mesh pattern to complete the border. So I'm just gonna start in my first space here. I'm gonna do a single crochet. And this is this is like pretty self-explanatory. I'm just gonna single crochet in every stitch and space until I get back to the other corner. Okay, I'm gonna put my last single crochet into my last chain space, just like where I put my first single crochet on this side, and then I'm going to start chaining for my strap. Just chain the same number of chains that you did on your first strap. So for me, it's gonna be 200, and I'm just gonna start here, chain 200, and then we'll do pretty much the same thing. We're gonna slip stitch back down our chain, and then we'll connect it right where we started our border, and then we'll be done. Okay, so here's my other strap. Just wanted to show you, I am going to slip stitch back all the way down this strap just like I said, and then I will meet you right back here. Okay, so I have slip stitched all the way back down, right to where I started my border. So from here, I'm going to cut my yarn with several inches to spare so that I can connect it in the round and weave it in. So at this point, I'm going to pull my hook all the way out, including the yarn end. So it looks like this now. I'm gonna go ahead and grab my yarn needle and we're gonna thread it up. And then basically we need to like sew this little gap closed. So you see the top of the first single crochet that we did here. I'm just gonna take my needle and I'm gonna go through it like that, both sides. I'm gonna pull that through. And now if you look back at the last slip stitch that you did, we're gonna go through the top of it and down the other side. And what that does is it connects it around and creates a braided loop so it looks like an unbroken stitch pattern. So from here I will go ahead and weave this end in. So I just kind of like stick it through so that it's on the back side. I'm gonna bring it kind of like down into my solid double crochets because it's just easier to weave it in that way. So I'm gonna run it under these single crochets that are along the border. And then from here, I'm just gonna weave it kind of back and forth between bottoms of the double crochet stitches. Once you think you have weaved it in pretty good and it's not going to go anywhere, you can go ahead and snip off the rest of your yarn if you have any left over. A good way to tell if you have weaved in something well enough is it needs to go in 3 directions. So I have it going down, I have it going this way, and I have it going back this way, and then I have it going down again. So my 3 directions are down, sideways, and then sideways the other way. So that should not be coming out anytime soon. You also can't see it, so that's good. And we are finished crocheting. The only thing we have left to do is to lace up the straps in the back. So we'll do that really quick. This is the front of my top, so I'm gonna flip it over so that the back side is facing me. And then I'm gonna start with my left side. I'm gonna take the end of it and I'm going to take it to my right side. And I'll just like go like a couple inches up from the bottom and I'll just pick a row and then I will kind of like lace it through the side there. That's good. I'm gonna do the same thing with my right hand side. I'm gonna find the end, go to my left and put it through on the same row. Okay, from here you can just take that same one. I'm gonna find the middle point between where I first laced it up and the bottom, so it'll be like, you know, around here. I'll lace it through there. I'm going to do the same thing with the other one. Just make sure it's on the same row. And then the last row that I put them through is always going to be the bottom corner. So this top just slides over your head, your arms go through here, and then you tighten it up as tight as you need it to be, and then you tie these little ends in a bow. But that is it for the Valerie top. I hope you guys liked this tutorial. If you make it, go ahead and tag me on Instagram or any other social media that you have. If you like this tutorial, give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to my channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And I have lots of other top tutorials, so go ahead and help yourself to those. But that is all for today, so I will see you guys next time. Bye!